Chairman. The Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas, Mr. McCall, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here today. I feel like we just did this a few weeks ago, but I don't really need to tell you all about the threat that exists at the border. There is a war going on. We have U.S. officials targeted in Nuevo Laredo, Juarez. We had a deputy sheriff in Arizona shot. We just had a shooting on the El Paso-Juarez border. And every day we hear a new story about some violent killing. More people died in Mexico at the hand of the drug cartels than the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan combined. And so my constituents and the American people, they get frustrated and they want this to happen now. And when they hear 2016, 2017, and I know all of you understand this, that to them that's not acceptable. And I don't think it is either. I think we can do better. I think Mr. Bartkowski, you and Mr. Fisher being new to the scene, have a great opportunity to get this done right. There are some good technologies out there. I think, I showed a video of Block 1 last hearing, and it seems to be working relatively well. The agents seem to like it. As I understand your testimony, by the end of June, Mr. Bartkowski, you will have an assessment on that?
Not of that. By the end of June, what we'll have done is this so-called quantitative science-based assessment to say what SBI Net we expect it to do compared to what other technology could do, what SBI Net would cost to do it, what other technology would cost to do it, what's the best trade-off of cost and benefit for Arizona. That's the end of June. In terms of taking the experience of the agents, which has been very encouraging, but is not quantitative, it's subjective. So to put that in other words, what the agents are seeing and doing, they like. What we don't know is, are we seeing and doing all the things that we're supposed to be seeing and doing? That's the system acceptance testing we talked about that would be completed for Tucson 1 in September. So we'll combine that. That'll be measurable. We'll have some measures. We'll combine that with the qualitative assessments of the agents, and we'll characterize the system.
Okay, so by the end of September, you'll have a better idea.
Yes.
And I appreciate your comprehensive approach. I think there are a lot of good technologies out there. I think as Congressman Cuellar and I talked about, we've seen, well, you and I took a trip down to the border and saw technologies that we are using in Afghanistan on the Pakistan border that the taxpayers already paid for. And it seems to me we ought to be using that, not duplicate efforts, and use that same technology on the southwest border where it's needed. And I think you agree with that. Good sensor technology, surveillance technology. We saw an operation the other day that uses radio frequency to shut down vehicles, boats. I mean, think about the applications that would have. So I think you're smart to look at all the menu of technologies out there and to use them best for the taxpayer. UAVs, do you, and Mr. Fisher and Bartkowski, do you value the use of UAVs down there?
Yes, Congressman, we do.
I'd like to see more of them down there. Would that be helpful to your mission?
Yes, Congressman, it would.
And we just, we have several in Arizona, but not enough in Texas, in my view, where I come from. I know my time's limited, but I wanted to follow up on something, Mr. Bartkowski, you said, and that is we can't secure the border with just technology. I think technology is an important piece. The fence is by and large finished, except for those parts litigated. Can you explain what else you were talking about?
Well, what we're talking about here is technology, tactical infrastructure, which includes fence, but also things like roads and lights, and then personnel. Mm-hmm. So technology, what we use technology primarily for is to give us an awareness of what's going on. Technology can't respond to that awareness. And by the way, people can give us that awareness. So there's a trade-off there between what I have technology do, what I have people do, for example.
And I agree, but the President's budget basically proposed a decrease in SBI Net down to $574 million from the previous year funding of $800 million, and cuts to Border Patrol agent staffing. And I don't think that's the right direction. Now, I know that the President just came out recently, and I commend him for it, that with $500 million emergency spending and 1,200 National Guard. Did the President talk to you, Mr. Fisher, about this proposal?
No, sir, the President did not speak to me about that.
No. And you're the chief of the Border Patrol, right?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. Don't you think it would be good to get your input in terms of how many National Guard are needed on the southwest border?
Well, I can tell you, sir, that my requirements, operational requirements that I get from the field, the chiefs in the field, my collective staff here in headquarters, gets packaged with all of CBP's requirements for border security efforts, gets funneled through the Secretary. So ostensibly, my requirements are being heard. I'm just not doing it personally.
Do you think 1,200 is sufficient?
1,200, sir, of the...
Additional National Guard?
Up to 1,200 National Guard will help us in those priority areas to achieve higher levels of what we tactically define as operational effective control of the border.
The governor of my state has requested 1,000 just on the Texas-Mexico border. My constituents are very frustrated about the use of the National Guard. They don't understand why they can't do what they're trained to do down there, that they're basically assigned to desks and they push paper as opposed to providing security on the border. And I share in that frustration. I know there's some legal obstacles to that. But what do you see as the use of the National Guard on the border?
Well, sir, and certainly I wouldn't argue with your constituents' perception with respect to what the Guard may or may not be able to do. I will tell you that they add value. And what we have seen in using the Guard over the years, we use them in many cases to perform services such as auto mechanics, surveillance operators for some of the camera systems Mr. Borkowski has mentioned. Because what that does, that allows a Border Patrol agent who's currently doing that to then free them up to go and do the patrols that have and those agents have the arrest authority where the National Guard does not. They also provide in terms of entry identification teams. What that means is we have National Guard members who, along with Border Patrol agents, get up to a high point where perhaps we don't have the technology solution yet. And they perform a valuable function in detecting that which we can't see otherwise, so that Border Patrol agents can then respond, and it increases our capacity to not only have some situational awareness, it reduces those vulnerabilities with those additional force multipliers on the ground. So they do add value to our operations, in my opinion. Well,
I hope you can fully utilize their experience, because they have tremendous experience. They could be, brought to bear on the border. I look forward to working with the two of you more in the future. You're new to this, so we're not going to blame the new guy, but I think we have a good opportunity as well in terms of fixing this problem. With that, I yield back.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes another gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.